Hey everyone, and welcome to the IELTS Focus. All right, today we are going to totally nail the IELTS speaking question about describing a health article. I'm going to give you all the tools you need for a really high-scoring answer.
So, we're going to use this super simple, but honestly really powerful 4-part framework. Think of it as your secret guide to building the perfect answer, one that checks all the boxes for the examiner.
Yeah, this is basically your recipe for success. If you just follow these 4 steps in order, introduction, description, experience, and feeling, you're going to be able to put together a fluent, super detailed, and impressive 2-minute talk. And the best part? It works every single time.
Okay, let's kick things off with step 1, the introduction. Look, your goal here is simple. Start strong. You want to clearly introduce the article you're talking about and, make a great first impression right from the get-go. And here is a perfect way to do it. This line is just perfect. It's polite, it's crystal clear, and it helps you start talking without any of that awkward hesitation. Honestly, I just memorize this exact phrase. It's a great way to start with confidence. See what's happening here? Right after that great opening line, you jump straight into the specifics, the title, and the main topic. Doing this shows the examiner, hey, I'm organized, I know what I'm doing, and I've got a plan for this answer. All right, so you've introduced the article. Now what? Well, now it's time to describe its key points. This is your chance to really show off a bit, Show the examiner you can summarize and explain things clearly. And here's a fantastic way to start that summary. Using a phrase like the main gist, it just sounds so much more natural and fluent, doesn't it? It's a big step up from something basic like the main idea was. Now, the real key here is to add those specific details. Please, don't just say the article was interesting. That doesn't tell us anything. You've got to explain what it was about, like, the connection between gut health and mood, and also why it was so special. Maybe it used credible, peer-reviewed data, for instance. So think of these phrases as your little toolkit for this part of the answer. The main gist, that's how you introduce the topic. What made it stand out? That's for comparing it to other stuff. And digestible, what a great word for saying it was easy to understand. Okay, moving on to step 3, the experience. Now, this is where the magic happens. This is where you connect the article to your own life. And trust me, this is absolutely essential for a high score. It takes your answer from just a boring summary and turns it into a personal story. This little phrase right here, it's your bridge. It's how you smoothly go from describing the article to telling your own story about it. It's a clear signal to the examiner that you're now moving into the experience part of your talk. And this is why it's so good. You're explaining the context, the situation you were in when you stumbled upon the article. You weren't just, scrolling aimlessly. No, you had a real problem, like being tired all the time. That makes your story so much more believable and way more engaging for the listener. These phrases are just gold. I was struggling with, boom, you've set the scene. The timing was providential. What a beautiful way to say you got lucky. And I decided to put the advice into practice. That's huge. It shows the examiner that this article actually made you do something. And finally, we've arrived at step 4, the feeling. This is how you wrap it all up. You need to explain the impact the article had on you. This is your big finish, right? You want to leave a really strong, lasting impression. Wow, what a fantastic way to finish your talk. The phrase turning point is just so powerful. It immediately tells the examiner, hey, this wasn't just some random article I skimmed. This thing had a real, meaningful effect on me. And what really seals the deal is when you describe your feelings. Using a word like empowered and talking about how your whole outlook changed. Saying it shifted your perspective adds this real emotional depth, and you end your whole 2-minute talk on such a high note. Okay, before we put this whole thing together, let's do a quick vocabulary boost. I'm going to give you some of the key words from our model answer. Because let's be real, using some more sophisticated words and using them correctly is a surefire way to bump up your score. First up, providential. This is just a fantastic word for when something happens at the absolute perfect lucky moment, So instead of just saying it was lucky, you can say something like, finding that article on sleep when I was struggling with fatigue was truly providential. It just sounds so much smarter, right? Next, we have digestible. Now, normally we think of this for food, right? But it's such a clever way to describe information that's easy to understand. So instead of a boring, it was easy to read, you could try, the scientific information was presented in a really digestible way. It's just more vivid, more descriptive. Turning point. This is a phrase that has some serious impact. You use this to show a really big, decisive change in your life. For instance, reading that article was a turning point in how I viewed my health. See, it immediately signals that this was a big deal. And then there's paramount. This is a very strong, very formal-sounding word for something that is extremely important. It's great for your conclusion. You could say something like, after reading the article, I realized that getting enough sleep is paramount for my well-being. Okay, so let's put it all together and recap the whole strategy. You see how by following this logical flow, introduction, then description, then your personal experience, and finally your feelings, you build a really fluent and complete answer? This is the kind of high-scoring structure you should be aiming for. All right, now the ball's in your court. It's over to you. Take this framework, pick a health article, it can be real or even one you make up, it doesn't matter, and start practicing that 2-minute talk. Remember what we said, preparation is paramount. So what health article are you going to describe to ace this test?